Hello, Drifters. Today we're taking a look at the Steam frame and our game Sweet Surrender and how it runs on it. So we were pretty lucky to get our hands on a DevKit a while back ago, and we're really excited because Sweet Surrender just got verified for the Steam frame. Yeah, let's take a look at how it runs on the Steam frame. And first of all, I just want to say thank you to Brian Lindenhoff. He's the developer of Climby VR, and he wrote this awesome video capture tool that I'm using to capture natively on a Steam frame. First, with the basics, controllers, the positioning just works out of the box once we set up the right profile for it. Of course, you can adjust it, your hand position and your aim direction to your liking in our settings. Now, probably the most important thing is the graphical settings. By default, we went with some conservative settings to make sure that we didn't trip up the performance verification tool from Valve. But all these settings are exposed to you and you can tweak them to your heart's content. We're running here with 1.2x render scale and 2 times MSAA. That's a little bit lower than on Quest 3, but you can easily crank it up to 1.5 render scale and get pretty much the same visuals. And you can still crank it up all the way up to 2.0, which looks amazing, but then you will occasionally run into some stutters or small hiccups. But all these settings are there. They're there for players to configure the game to enjoy it the way they want to enjoy it. Yeah, overall, the performance feels pretty solid. The audio sounds great. The game feels like I'm playing on PC VR or on Quest 3. So we're quite happy with how it turned out. A big part of that has been the experience working with Valve. This is our first time really working with their engineers who have been super responsive to any of our questions. And they've been pretty much working non-stop the last few months and years, probably, improving the performance of the various libraries they offer to developers. So just to go a little bit into some technical details with how we approached Sweet Surrender on the frame. For us, we went with the Proton approach. That means we took our Windows build and Steam or Valve is doing various conversions to get it running. Now, the Steam frame is a Linux machine with an ARM64 chip at its core. So in order to get a Windows build running, it's got to run through 3 different translation layers. There's Proton to get it running on Linux. There's the effects library to get it running on the ARM64 chip. And then there's also an OpenGL to Vulkan translation layer called Zinc. That we have to use, or that is used automatically for our game since we're still on OpenGL. And all these translation libraries obviously add some overhead. And if you notice in this performance graph that you can see on the videos, most of our time is actually spent on the CPU, which is where a lot of this translation layers are doing their work. But for us, it was relatively straightforward to get up and running. At first, performance wasn't ideal, but again, after a few back and forths with Valve and some investigations, they tuned a bunch of things on their libraries to make our game run faster. Now, we still had to make improvements on our side. There were quite a few garbage collection issues. We were allocating way too much memory every frame that had to be cleaned up. And actually, our main menu was the worst offender. It looks super simple, but all these curved menus were causing us a lot of frame rate drops. After some banging our heads against walls, we finally figured out how to fix that, and it basically means not generating all these meshes every single frame, but doing some basic caching of the meshes and the textures being rendered. After we made those changes, the game started running super smooth, and then we got verified. In my opinion, this device is amazing. As a general computing device, as a open VR headset, and we're really excited about its potential. But we're also a little bit cautious. It's still hard to tell, what the price point is going to be, how many units it's going to sell, and whether that's going to translate into more sales of our games. But we're excited that Valve is releasing another VR headset, and we're going to continue to invest in our games on a frame once the market becomes clearer. What's really cool about Valve's software emulation approach is that it has the potential to continue improving over time. So players and developers will continue to get free optimizations and improvements without necessarily having to do anything on the dev side. So that's about it. If you have any questions about Sweet Surrender running on the Steam frame, please let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support us further, please wishlist our new game Drifters. It's building on everything we learned from Sweet Surrender, and it's a 4-player co-op extraction shooter.